It's really a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I must admit that from the time that I was very little, SBI was very special. Because it is so for every Indian. And this campaign goes back, and it made such an impression on me even at that time. It's very easy to miss. It's very easy to miss, right? You're seeing a very stereotypical image there, and then it says, she's an SBI customer and he's an SBI customer too. And therefore, to me, SBI has always personified financial inclusion. And today, as we are here to celebrate 10 lakh crores AUM of SBI Mutual Fund, I can't tell you how delighted I am, because this is what SBI Mutual Fund has done. This is the future. And therefore, over the last year and a bit, every time that I have spoken about how mutual funds are our product for financial inclusion in the capital markets and how we want to make micro SIPs popular and the 250 rupee SIP popular, not just at the back of the mind, but right in front of my mind, I knew that the one mutual fund that can do it is SBI Mutual Fund. But I must share that for us as a regulator, SBI Mutual Fund also has another very important dimension, which is not so publicly lauded, it's much more privately lauded. So when, for instance, we wanted to request the government to provide a backstop facility for mutual funds in the event of another crisis, and when we wanted to institutionalize it, and when we were asked a simple question, isko chalayega kaun? हमने बेधड़क बोल दिया, SBI Mutual Fund चलाएगा और कौन चलाएगा? And there was just unanimous acceptance. There wasn't another question, another debate, another deliberation, because it was like, obviously, that will be so, right? So SBI Mutual Fund has a very special place for the regulator in that respect, and there are many other instances less publicly known where, again, SEBI relies on the broad shoulders of SBI Mutual Fund to do in its own way, a part of the very tremendous responsibility that is cast on us as a regulator in this industry. So this is really, जैसे हम बोलते हैं ना, तहे दिल से शुक्रिया अदा करना. It is the culture of the bank which has manifested in the subsidiary, and I would like to really thank each one of the SBI Mutual Fund family for being who you are. You know, we all talk of financial inclusion, and I have very often said that the driver of financial inclusion is technology. And that is what I believe. Without technology, we could never have achieved where we are, and we can never hope to reach where we will reach. But I think one of the things which we fail to sometimes recognize and celebrate is that in deploying this technology, what is it that we as a market ecosystem have achieved in terms of cost reduction and therefore making financial inclusion viable and profitable? You know, there are mutual funds even today who have a 100 rupee SIP. But as a regulator, we know it isn't viable. So, you know, we really don't urge our market participants to push that because we know it's not viable. Every customer is loss-making. It's very hard to do that. But the idea really is to bring down the cost so that the bottom of the pyramid becomes so profitable, and with the scale that we have in our country, the kind of growth that we can anticipate going forward is just tremendous. But how do we get faith that this is actually possible, and what is the dimension that we can take it to? Before I come to some of the statistics, I would like to share that this cost reduction, thanks to technology, is not coming at the cost of quality. We are giving investors and our customers a brilliant experience along with the cost benefit. We are giving them brilliant cost reduction and cost management along with cost reduction, risk reduction. So risk and cost reduction along with improvement in quality of service, this is the magic that we have. Simply bringing down cost and giving shoddy service is not what we are all here to do, but to do it while managing risk and while giving the customer a superior experience. So how do we have faith in this? I want to share some statistics with you. You know I love data. This is a slide which is related to our market ecosystem. And I'm also very proud to show SEBI data in it as well. So a peer review of IT spends across various regulators, and you can look at our numbers. This is annualized yearly IT expense. And you know how much SEBI has invested in technology. You know, most people these days worry that perhaps we've invested a little too much. We keep finding everything there is to find. So look at those numbers there. SEBI has invested a fraction of the kind of monies that our fellow regulators across the globe have invested. And yet, we have some of the most superior SupTech technology in the world today. You look at our stock exchanges and clearing corporations. Just look at the comparison. And if you particularly look at some of the larger markets, because our markets are amongst the largest in the world, whether it is in terms of number of listed companies or whether in terms of number of transactions, we are amongst the largest. And yet, look at the comparison we have in terms of IT spend there. How does NSE compare with its peer group? Similarly, how does NSE clearing compare with its own peer group? So as you can see, in India, this is not surprising. Industry after industry, we are not only able to deploy technology quickly, we are able to deploy technology at an amazing cost compared to anywhere else on this planet. Not just in the markets. I wanted to share some data which is not related to the markets at all, because this is not unique to us. It's about the strength that we have as a nation, as a country, with all of us citizens participating. You look at the Aravind Nethralaya numbers, and you can see from here that literally the cost per cataract operation that is done in Aravind Nethralaya, the cost is 1/40th to 1/50th, and in some cases 1/100th of the cost of an equivalent cataract operation in the UK or in the US. 1/50th, 1/100th. And mind you, a number which we are not able to see here is that the quality is not compromised. Their post-operative infection rates, which is the way that all hospitals measure their quality of delivery, is actually a fraction of what it is elsewhere. So higher quality delivered at a fraction of the cost, this is India. This is how we deliver. If you look at our telecom rates, you know, while a large part of the globe looks like it is blue and, you know, we are in that, you know, lowest cost bracket, we are actually ranked number 7th in terms of low cost of delivery of data over our telecom network. And the only countries who are above us, 1 to 6, are all much, much smaller countries where the cost of infrastructure, the cost of putting our towers in every nook and corner of this very large country does not exist. So this is something really remarkable that we as Indians have already achieved. And therefore, my confidence that the 250 rupee SIP will not only be real, it will actually be hugely profitable for our industry, and therefore we will see financial inclusion along with profitability of the industry. And that is my belief, because that's what we do in India. How does this work for us? Now, all of us who've done some amount of management, this chart is very familiar to us: fixed cost, variable cost, revenue, and profit. Now, it's very simple. The operating leverage that we have in the mutual fund industry is just amazing, right? So once you have your product set up, once you have your technology set up, once you have your compliance set up, when you scale, you can scale so amazingly, and the only real incremental cost is that of distribution and a small extent of servicing. And therefore, given the huge scale that we have in India and the whole bottom of the pyramid that we keep referring to, it's just a perfect recipe. So if someone says, you know, what do you expect will happen in the next 3 years? Well, to me, it will not be surprising if SBI gets to 20 lakh crores in the next 3 years. It will not surprise me one bit. And as we said, for us, the magic is in sachetization of our products. And this is the lady who's going to get us there. And I'm sure that just like we have, you know, all these FMCG products being sachetized and sold in every corner of the country, SBI Mutual Fund is going to make this happen. And with that, as we keep repeating, finally, what is the objective? The objective is that our country, which is now having this huge momentum, two things need to happen. The citizens need to participate in wealth creation of the country. And secondly, capital formation needs to happen. So to me, you know, a question was raised in the panel discussion that, you know, is this a time to keep attracting more money into the markets? Of course it is. For the simple reason that not just, you know, as Dhirendra said, I love that quote, the best time to have planted a tree was 20 years ago, the next best time is today. But also because it's not just the secondary market. If you see the way our primary market is growing, you know, it's just amazing. Many of our global counterparts cannot believe when we talk about the number of IPOs we have, you know, month after month after month. And we have almost about, I think, 40,000 crores of IPOs which have been approved and are waiting to be launched. We have another 80,000 crores worth of applications with us, and we're working very hard, night and day, to clear it as soon as possible. So you have a pipeline of 1,20,000 crores of capital formation to happen. Also, I would want to emphasize that whenever people say, oh, but a large part of that is offer for sale, and it's not really capital formation going into the economy, I would beg to differ. Because when that offer for sale happens, it is people getting exit, and those people are the ones who brought capital into the country and into those companies in the first place. If they didn't have exit, they wouldn't have done entry. So it's just that there is a time lag between the two, and money came in originally and is now finding an exit. But all of this vibrancy of our markets and the vibrancy of the mutual fund industry is what is supporting and adding and fueling the growth of the economy. And we are looking forward, as I said, to the SBI group in particular to lead the charge, because you're the ones that have done it before. You're the guys who know how to do this, and you're the guys that we're all looking to be able to celebrate the next milestone. Thank you.
Ma'am has agreed to take a few questions. Lata ma'am always first. I think somebody's coming.
I need a glass of water.
Chairman Butch, actually two related questions. Are you not worried about any bubbles in the market? And the related question is, 6 months back at a SEBI press conference, you said that, you know, we are not a nanny regulator. We will not, I mean, we have warned people about F&O, but we won't go any further. But you have changed your mind. Why did you change your mind? Why have you now decided that F&O volumes need to be curbed? And when are they coming anyway, the rules?
So, you know, there was, I believe it was a famous economist who once said, when the facts change, I change my mind. What do you do, sir? If you see 3 years ago, Lata, when we looked at the activity in the F&O market, we looked at it and said that the investor at a micro level needs information, needs a risk disclaimer and appropriate dissemination of that information. And I did indeed say that we've done our job, now we are not a nanny state. We are still not a nanny state. However, what has changed? If you see the volumes, the way that they have grown over the last 3 years, I don't think anyone could have anticipated that. If you see the number of young people who have entered that entire process and have lost tons of money, no one could have expected to see that. It has now reached a scale where we believe that the micro objective of protecting the individual investor has changed and morphed to thinking about the macro issue of saying, is this what our market is designed to do, to basically facilitate a lot of speculative transactions? Or at a macro level, are we worried that household savings are now going not into capital formation, but into speculative activity? So what has changed over the 3 years, the facts that have changed, is it has gone from being a micro issue of an investor to a macro issue of the economy itself. And therefore, we felt compelled that we must review our stance. As you know, we've been saying this for a long time. SEBI now eschews dogma and only follows data. Data and no dogma. So tomorrow, if the facts change again, we will change our views again.
My first question was on whether you're worried about the market being in bubbly territory.
As you would know, usually regulators do not opine about what they think is the direction of the market or the, let's say, the valuations and so on. We made a notable exception a few months ago because we were concerned, and therefore, breaking with convention, we made an observation at that time because we thought it is important for investors to know, because nobody else was saying it. Normally, we would expect market observers to say it, we would expect the media to say it. Nobody was saying it. So it fell on us as a regulator at that time to break convention and to express an opinion on the market. I think we're good for now. We don't need to do that again.
गुड इवनिंग मैम। बजट नज़दीक है और मार्केट को सबसे ज़्यादा डर इसी बात का है कि वित्त मंत्री जी को लगता है कि हम बहुत पैसा कमा रहे हैं, सारे इन्वेस्टर्स इस बार बड़े वेल्दी हैं, तो क्यों ना टैक्स बढ़ाया जाए। क्या आपको लगता है कि ये सही वक्त है या नहीं है टैक्स बढ़ाने का? और दूसरा, हम हिंदुस्तानियों की आदत है, हम कोई भी काम तभी करते हैं जब उसमें टैक्स रिबेट मिले। आप अभी माइक्रो एसआईपी की बात कर रही थी, क्या ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए एक ऐसी स्कीम आए जहां फर्स्ट टाइम इन्वेस्टर्स जो 25,000 50,000 साल का इन्वेस्ट करना चाहे उन्हें किसी तरह की टैक्स रिबेट दी जाए, ताकि हिंदुस्तान में जो वेल्थ क्रिएशन का कैंपेन है ये छोटी छोटी जगह और छोटे छोटे इन्वेस्टर्स तक पहुँचे?
मेरा जवाब बहुत ही सिंपल है। मैं नॉर्मली अंग्रेजी में बोलती हूँ, दिस इज़ वे अबव माई पे ग्रेड। सो
Hello, Madhvi ma'am, how are you? It's a very momentous occasion, and you've delivered a visionary presentation. Congratulations. You know, you have been a part of this industry on all sides of the table. Over 3 decades, you have been a part of the retail movement in the country, so this presentation coming from you is very significant. What would be your one advice to distributors of India who have been responsible for 80% plus of this corpus, which SBI, the milestone they have reached? What would be your one advice to them coming from your experience and then also from the vantage point where you are today? for the next few years to come?
You know, normally लोग कहते हैं कि where I stand on an issue depends on where I sit. But on this matter, my view has never changed. So I would like to narrate a story. Nilesh है कहीं इधर बैठा हुआ? नहीं. So Nilesh used to run ICICI Prudential Mutual Fund, and I used to run ICICI Caps. And we were the largest, ICICI Caps was the largest distributor of mutual funds at that time. So Nilesh बहुत खफा था मुझसे. So he went to Mr. Kamath and he said, she doesn't sell my funds. And you know, there is this synergy, there's something called corporate synergy, and she doesn't sell my funds. And you know, you have to make her sell my funds. So Mr. Kamath, being Mr. Kamath, he asked me to join the meeting. And he said, you know, Nilesh बहुत दुखी है. Why are you not selling his funds? So I said, sir, पहले उसको बोलिए, performance दिखाए, top 5 funds में आए. I am not going to shortchange my customers and stick them with a dud product. If he wants me to sell it, he better perform. And Mr. Kamath turned to him and said, I think I agree with her. And that was that. So, you know, to me, the customer was my customer. I'm the distributor. He is my customer. I'm not going to mislead him. I don't care if someone says she's not building synergy in the group. I will only sell the top 5 selling funds. So, to me, the whole issue is very simple. Does your heart beat for the customer? Do you think that that person you're selling to, I keep saying, is your father-in-law? Yeah. You know, tomorrow if that fund goes belly up in the wrong way, okay, if he, with his open eyes, he has taken some risk, that's different. But if you missold something to him, will you have the ability to look your father-in-law in the eye and explain to him ki hua kya? So my view on this has not changed since then, which was, I think, 1999 or maybe 2000. And today, 24 years later.
Ma'am, this is
Hello,
Mahalakshmi from Money Control. Hi, Ankur.
Hi. Hi.
Sorry, I can't see you.
Hi.
Ma'am, here.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I'm here at the last row. Ma'am, here.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Mahalakshmi from Money Control.
Yes, Mahalakshmi.
So, ma'am, answering Lata's question, you said that, you know, nobody was calling the market the peak or bubble territory in the market, not the media, not fund managers. And therefore, you took the responsibility to express that there was some kind of fraud. Is this the stated path that you're going to take in future? Will you be calling peaks or, you know, sending warning signals or, you know, some kind of signal to the market that you have a view on valuations?
Short answer is no. And why? Because I think this time we were facing the situation for the first time, and we had to deal with the situation at that point in time tactically. What we now believe is that should this happen again, there should be no need for us to do it because there should be a process in place to do that. And therefore, what are the 2 things that we did to put that process in place so that this occasion should never arise where a regulator has to break with convention? So the first thing we did, of course, as most of you in this room know, we asked for the stress testing of the mutual fund schemes, equity schemes of small and mid cap to be made public. Now, many people argued, oh, but stress tests are only meant for the regulator. Why do we need to make it public? I think this is a wrong understanding of how markets work. The regulator does not tell you what to do, what not to do. The regulator's only job is to make sure that the investor is an informed investor and he or she takes his decision with full information. So a stress test, the results of stress test in banking are completely different and in the market are completely different. So as a process to say stress test results will be made public. You've also seen our move in terms of disclosure of risk-adjusted returns, right? So this is also another additional thing that people should be able to see the risk for themselves. We should not have to call it out. The third thing is in the markets itself, you may have noticed that the larger brokers, what we call qualified stock brokers, they display on a pop-up certain surveillance-related information of a particular stock if you are punching in that symbol to trade in it. So right now it tells you whether it's under ASM, GSM, and so on. Now what we are doing is we are working with the exchanges and the qualified stock brokers to enrich that pop-up which is there, and it's at the point of trade. So we feel that whatever the investor needs to know, wahan ka wahan usi samay aap usko bataएं. And so we are enriching that data. It will only be factual data. So that again, any risk-related parameters that need to be disclosed to the investor at that very point in time, he will be shown those numbers. So we believe that going forward, we should not need to do it because we've now put processes in place for that.
Thank you. Hello, ma'am. Ankur Mishra from ET Now. While we are discussing about Bharat and 250 rupees SIP here, you have also released a consultation paper on high-risk mutual funds, where you have given permission that mutual funds can invest in derivatives as well. So on one hand, you are talking about risk of the retail who are going into FNO last 3 years volume. And on the other hand, you have allowed mutual funds to invest in derivatives. So is that a view regulator is taking that if retail wants to come to FNO particularly, and particularly in options, it should be mutual funds route?
Short answer is no. But the long answer is that there are many factors that have played on our mind in coming out with this new consultation paper. One definitely is the fact that while we have traditionally thought that FNO is a risky product and retail investors should not get into it, they've proved us wrong. So they have the appetite, there is a demand from the market. What is the regulator's role in responding to market demand? I think we have demonstrated in the recent past when we saw that there was appetite for small and medium REITs, right? Imagine we dropped the threshold from 500 crores to 50 crores. Because we saw that there is demand in the market, it is going in an informal, unregulated way and with no investor protection. And that it is incumbent on us that if people do want to make those kind of investments, they should have a safe environment in which to do that. Similarly, when we brought out our regulation on online bond platforms, what was that? It's simply giving a safer environment for warehousing and downselling of bonds. Right? It was happening informally with no investor protection. So every time we introduce something new, it's because we say we recognize that there is a market demand for it. We need to give a good regulated environment to the investor to meet that demand. So it's clear to us the investor wants to take derivative positions. Why are we leaving him without an option to do it through a professional fund manager? So that was one of the factors that drove that consultation paper. Two other factors that drove it was, we had been observing through our inspection process that authorized persons of brokers were running illegal PMS quite at large scale. So again, that told us that there is a market need. After all, people are trusting those authorized persons and doing it. So again, why not give them a safer space in which to do it? The third is that there was a gap, given the way that incomes in India have grown and the investable surplus of households has grown, there was a gap where investors perhaps have 10 lakhs but not 50 lakhs to put into PMS. And so it was a gap in the market. So, you know, we as a regulator, I don't know if it's, you know, well known, but in the SEBI Act, in the preamble, it says that SEBI has 3 mandates: development of the market, regulation of the market, and investor protection. So we take all 3 roles very seriously. So development of the market has to be manifested in the form of newer products, newer asset classes, newer channels, newer investors coming in, newer segments, newer institutions. That's our job.
Ma'am, if I may quickly go, I was, I think, next in line. This is Neil Borate from Mint. There was a recent SEBI board decision which said that there should be a separation between regulated entities and unregulated entities or influencers. Now, a number of influencers have taken the distribution license, the mutual fund distribution license, and there is no SEBI code for advertising that applies to them, nor is there enforcement of such a code by AMFI. So, should such a code be there? Should there be an equal treatment of all intermediaries, whether they are advisors or distributors? And the connected question, you gave the example of Mr. Kamath. Now, SBI very famously only sells SBI mutual fund. They do not offer the entire bouquet. There is no SEBI regulation which forces distributors to offer the entire bouquet. And you see that in the data. The big banks disproportionately offer schemes of their associated AMCs. So should this not be corrected in the consumer interest?
Just remind, influences. So, I think there is a misunderstanding that mutual fund distributors are not regulated. It is factually inaccurate. A mutual fund distributor is an agent of a mutual fund, just like an employee. If the agent does something which the mutual fund is not permitted to do, the mutual fund is responsible and liable, and we will enforce our regulations against them. So we have seen cases where distributors were doing mis-selling, wrong ads. We have taken action on the AMC. So we do not recognize the distributor. Otherwise, you're saying we must recognize every employee of the mutual fund. We are very clear about it. As you can see, the tone of my voice has changed. We are very, very clear about it. The distributor does something wrong, the AMC is liable. Simple. So any ad that the AMC cannot issue, the distributor cannot issue, and if we get our hands on it, which we sometimes do, we take action. So let me make that very clear. Okay? Now, whatever is the incidental advice that a distributor may give, like an employee of a mutual fund may give, has to be restricted to the mutual fund area, because they are carrying a registration from AMFI and they are an agent of the mutual fund. They cannot be giving advice on F&O trading and claim, oh, but I'm doing it because I'm registered with AMFI as a distributor. It is not allowed. If they do it, it is illegal. Full clarity?
Second question.
All right.
Ma'am, hi.
Second question. Second question. Oh, okay. Since I am here in SBI, there are two factors that you have to keep in mind. First is the point that Dhirendra made. Very large number of funds, particularly the ones who have common benchmarks and, because we have certain categories of funds, are 19-20 in terms of their performance. And therefore, if an entity makes a decision that amongst this 19-20, I am going to sell my group, I see no problem in it. If you remember what I said to Mr. Kamath. Okay? Now, different people have different organizations have different strengths. Okay? Somebody may have a very strong brand. Okay? Let's say, for instance, and I'll take an example. Let's say Motilal Oswal has a very strong equity brand. Okay? Most people who are my age and have a little bit of gray hair, they will associate them very strongly with equity. They have a strong equity brand. Do they not use their brand? Do you accuse them of anything wrong? If SBI has the might of its distribution, why should they not use it? Is there something wrong? So, the question now, however, going back to what I said, and Mr. Shetty will actually, he's smiling. We had a conversation on this some time back. Where the fund is not performing, and you are still selling it, and it tantamounts to mis-selling, that is something that the system has to take care that doesn't happen. And I'm very confident that the entire ecosystem that is there of the SBI Group takes care of that very well, because I'm sure they have a product approval committee, they have processes, and nobody just wakes up one fine day and starts selling anything. So I'm very confident of that.
Hi, ma'am. Khushbu Tiwari here.
Sorry, she was waiting to be.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
How much time do we have? So, you know.
Your turn.
Just two very quick follow-ups actually on what others have been asking. One on this issue of influencers. So you addressed the point of influencers perhaps taking the license of a distributor. What we're also seeing coming to light is that a lot of them are now opting to take, say, an RIA license, maybe within another entity or a structure that they set up. Yet they go on advertising, and perhaps the stringent rules that apply to RIAs, we don't see that translating immediately, at least, on social media. So just your thoughts on that. And my second question goes back to a far more fundamental issue that you raised while you were answering Lata's question on futures and options. You said that this is no longer a micro issue about protecting a investor. It's become a macro issue, whether there is excess speculation of household savings instead of it being used for capital formation. But my question is a more moral academic question, that from a regulator's perspective, it's a free open market. Is there a problem if there is speculation, as long as there's full disclosure and information, which is what you bat for?
So I'm glad I said that we also have a role of development of the markets. So you see, if we had a unidimensional mandate, you may be right. But we do have the responsibility of development of the markets, and therefore the development requires that we think about these macro issues as well. Sorry, your other question was?
On influencers now looking at new routes, for instance, getting an RIA license.
There is RIA license, yes. So there is regulatory arbitrage at the moment, and our team is on the job. I think you should see a consultation paper reasonably quickly, which will address the regulatory arbitrage that is there.
Hi, ma'am. Khushbu here. In the top row from Business Standard. Hi, ma'am. Ma'am, today's technical outage at the global level exposes many risks. And fortunately, our markets have largely been unaffected, though some of the brokers had some issues and some customers or clients took it to the social media to take the issue. And as far as I remember, SEBI had approved and launched an operational platform for investor risk reduction, though many brokers did not open that today. But how do you see overall technological risk? Because the way we are growing up in the markets, what are your views on the same? How do we need to prepare for the same?
Yes, indeed. I think what happened today is a wake-up call for all of us, and that actually accounts for why I was late here today. I'm sorry. I should have been here at 5 o'clock, but my flight was delayed because of this system down. I think from our perspective, the trigger of the risk reduction mechanism, there are certain rules. that if the outage is for a certain period of time, minimum period of time, and depending on whether it is before 1:30, after 2:30, there is some formula to basically to be able to allow that to happen. My understanding is none of those got triggered today, but as I said, I was on a flight, so I will need to go back and see. But it is not a, let me put it this way, for minor glitches, that is not the mechanism. It is if if any broker goes down and for a prolonged period of time, not able to move to disaster recovery, not able to come up again, and the markets are volatile and all of that, and then we say we must give an option. So my understanding is it didn't get triggered today. Sorry, what was the other thing you asked? So the general view. As you are aware, we have been urging the market infrastructure institutions to look at cyber security in particular in a two-dimensional way, not a single dimension. The single dimension is, the usual protocols of detect and disable and continuity and all of that, which anyway everybody is doing, and we do the regular VAPT testing, etc., to make sure that, everything is working well. But we have also implemented something which recently in a global forum where I was talking, I said that, in India, many of us, again, who have gray hair, हमारे घर में fridge पहली बार आया. I mean, youngsters will think, what, fridge? Like, in our life, it was an event. Fridge आया. Okay. Now, that fridge used to be, you bought it once in your life and it lasted you 30 years. You didn't change your fridge every 5-7 years. तो वो बेचारा fridge टूटता भी था, उसके compressor में से gas leak होती थी, you had to get it repaired, etc. So now, when the fridge would break down, everything else was okay, but the housewife would worry कि दही जो है वो खट्टा हो जाएगा. हाँ. So what did we do? We used to, जैसे वो fridge down हो गया, वो बच्चों को भेजते थे कि आप दही की देगची लीजिए, neighbor के पास जाइए और बोलिए कि please आप अपने fridge में हमारा दही रख लीजिए. Right? So this was the Indian backup system. Okay. Now, many of you may not be aware, but our two large clearing corporations, BSE and NSE Clearing Corporation, have technologically built a backup fridge for each other. Yes, this is not very well known. And actually, if one clearing corporation's risk management system goes down, the other clearing corporation's risk management system will kick in as though it is the same one. वो दही उधर automatically चला जाएगा. Now, when we asked, since I'm here in a mutual fund forum, so we said कि भैया हमारे जो QRTAs हैं, K Fintech or CAMS, they are to us exactly like the MIIs. Okay. So we said, अब उधर क्या करें? So we asked them, आप भी अपना ये fridge का arrangement कर लीजिए. So they came back and told us that no, given the nature of licenses that we have, like maybe, I don't know what, maybe Oracle licenses or Microsoft, whatever, some licenses, they said this is going to be very, very expensive for us. So we have another solution for you. वो solution क्या था? Which I think they are on the verge of implementing, if somebody from my team can confirm. They said कि देखिए हम दोनों के पास दो बड़े-बड़े फ्रिज हैं. हम ऐसा करते हैं, हम एक तीसरा छोटा सा फ्रिज खरीद लेते हैं, and we will share it because you as a regulator only want that the core functionality should not stop. During the day, real-time transactions of the mutual fund investors should not stop. Investment and redemption. बाकी सब जो है रिपोर्टिंग, रिस्क मैनेजमेंट, ये वो एंड ऑफ डे होता है, बाद में होगा, कोई बात नहीं. सो टुगेदर दे हैव बॉट अ स्मॉल फ्रिज एंड दे हैव लिंक्ड देयर फ्रिजेस टू दिस सो दैट जिस दिन वो बड़ा फ्रिज डाउन होगा, वो अपना छोटा सा दही छोटे फ्रिज में डाल दें.
Ma'am.
So, you know, we think very laterally on this issue because it's really, really important to us. So the main thing is, हमारी market कभी रुकनी नहीं चाहिए. So we are working very hard. Initially, I must admit that, you know, it took some convincing. But as somebody said, globally, somebody said, they have never seen competitors collaborate the way that I describe in India. So whether it is, you know, Amphi and everything that Amphi does in a collaborative way, or the way our MIIs collaborate, I mean, they'll kill each other in the market on competition. But when it comes to what really matters for the integrity of the market, they collaborate. So I'm very proud of our ecosystem.
Just one small question, Chairperson. This is Siddharth Zarabi from Business Today. There were reports earlier today in the media that SEBI has found no illegal manipulation in the stock markets on exit polls and what happened around that. I wonder if you would comment on that.
You know, we never talk about specific matters. Never.
Okay. I think that has an answer.
Thank you.
Great to hear you, ma'am. Just simple one question. You know, there is a lot of investors beyond this room who don't understand the funds or the funds, you know, philosophy of each of the fund. We have opened the gate for everybody to enter through direct codes. And whereas there is a lot of economy who has a restriction of accredited investors and to participate if they understand the fund directly. What's your view on that? Because as we are talking about micro SIPs, do you think, you know, an investor is well informed in order to participate himself and take the right decision and doesn't need a distributor? Are
you a distributor? Sorry, there are very few people I don't recognize, but I don't think. Are you a distributor? Ah, अच्छा, इसीलिए सवाल आ रहा है. So, I think we have made our position on qualified investors quite clear that when it comes to unlisted stocks where valuations are very hard to judge and transparency therefore by definition is limited, it is for such kind of products like AIFs that you either come in with a big check of 1 crore or you are an accredited investor and we know that you have 7 crores, so you can come in there. As far as mutual funds are concerned, we believe that the prudential norms that we have put in place and the disclosures that we have put in place are adequate. We are often asked the question that, do you think anybody actually reads this stuff? And we say, of course we don't think anybody, investors don't read it, but that's the role of media. And media plays a wonderful role in, you know, educating. You know, every time there is something new, something different, the media is talking about it. They bring in experts, they have their own editorial views. So according to us, there are market observers. Dhirendra will come and say something as well. So there are enough people, and therefore, and now with the digital media, it persists, right? If Dhirendra has said something 3 days ago, somebody can still refer to it and see that recording today. So we think that there is enough analysis of the information that it is put out. We do believe that right now it is all in English, and that's a constraint. We are hoping that with AI coming in, and the first thing, of course, that we are doing is you know, I keep telling my people in SEBI that you have to eat your own dog food. You know, you can't preach to other people and not do it yourself. So we have taken on a big project for automated translation of our circulars, this, that, regulations and all that. So I'm hoping that with the way that Gen AI is moving, a lot of the content which is there, which the media actually, you know, brings out for consumption, will automatically start getting converted into the top 7, 8, 10 languages. And then it will be far easier for Bharat to understand. Today, I think English is a constraint. But I think it's not very far away. I mean, we are only about some 2-3 months away from doing it internally. So I'm so sure the media is already doing stuff.
Hi, ma'am.
One question I have.
Okay. I'm so sorry to interrupt. I know I've been a journalist and always ye dil mange more, but ma'am has indulged us enough. So just, I think, Firoz, your final question, please.
Yes. Ma'am, I'm Firoz. It's such an honor to hear you. Every time I hear you, my confidence that our client's interest is protected grows up dramatically. I'm not flattering you saying that, but there's one thing which keeps me...
I'll take it as a compliment.
Yeah, it's an honest compliment. One thing which keeps me up all night, I just thought I'll see your reaction to that. I was interpolating the return of India, if Indian household savings, which is about 400 lakh crores in financial assets, for the last 10 years, if you interpolate, give or take, gave a return of about 7% only, which was very close to the CPI number. Okay, if 426 lakh crores is there, how it is deployed if you assume a certain return for the last 10 years, and the real return of India, if that was one household, is practically nothing. So we as a wealth management outfit had an objective that there should be double-digit return, at least a 3-4% real return for our clients. Then if that were to happen, there's a lot of flight of capital from debt investments has to go to equity. But the 500th largest company in the country, in the listed space, has a free float of 4,000 crores. And the household saving is 426 lakh crores. If the return of India has to go to double digit, which is what I think the industry's objective should be, how will that not create a bubble? And I'm sure, like you ma'am said, that gave me a little santwana, that 1,20,000 crores of good capital formation is going to happen. But I just thought I'll take your reaction to it.
So I think two things. One is what we all understand, that the startup ecosystem in our country is very vibrant, right? So we believe that the amount of supply of paper that will come going forward will actually increase manifold. So if we were to see how much private capital has come into the country in different forms, and all of that will manifest into the public markets. So where will that be? So we think that a good amount of paper will come into the market. The second thing that we are very hopeful about, and we see again a large role for SEBI to play in its development, is the entire REIT and InvIT system. So we believe that many of the REITs and InvITs are actually structured to be inflation proof, right? So for instance, if you take a particular structure of, let's say, commercial space and rental income from that. Now, it will keep pace with inflation. When you look at infrastructure assets, not directly, some structures have a built-in escalation clause, but in any case, the way the traffic will grow, it will be in a way inflation-proof. So we actually think that there is a whole lot of paper which is right now being bought by very large investors, particularly the large foreign pension funds and insurance companies, sovereign wealth funds, because the structure is very, very good. So we believe that going forward, there is a huge opportunity for India to grow have an increased supply of paper, of REITs and InvITs, a large part of which could be inflation-proofed. So there's one disclaimer I'm going to make right now. My personal opinion, normally I never give a personal opinion because everything is a SEBI opinion, but my colleagues have not yet bought into this personal opinion. So let me qualify my personal opinion based on a rather simplistic Excel sheet that we have worked on, is that the size of REITs, InvITs and Muni bonds in our country could be equal to 1 time our GDP. So, Mr. Bhatia, he's little bit in my camp, not yet fully. But you see, he runs the REIT, InvIT and Muni bond business in SEBI. So I am very, very confident that, 10 years down the line, we'll be looking at a number that will be very, very large. But a lot of work has to go into it. So I am very confident. See, when there's growth in the economy, the paper comes. So I am not worried. The people who need to worry is where there's no growth. If there's no growth, where's the paper? We have enough growth, we'll have enough paper.
Ma'am, thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.